But you see, if you're lackadaisical in your life, as most are, and you're just taking the boom as it comes, and then you're talking about the boom, and then you're getting another boom, and then you're talking about the boom, and then you're getting another boom, and you're talking about the boom, and then you're getting another boom, until you've had so many booms that you finally just can't take it anymore. And then you say to yourself, I give up. And that's what eventually comes. You just get weary of all the negative attraction, but here's what we wish for you. We don't want so much unwanted to come that the wanted choices are obvious. We want your discernment of satisfaction to become more refined. Why not ask the universe not just for one satisfying thing to converge, but 15, 20, or 30, or 40 satisfying things to converge all at once? Why not ask for your satisfaction to be ecstasy? Why not ask for your satisfaction to feel like being the most blessed person on the planet? Why not let your feelings of satisfaction evolve to the state where you feel like you can be or do or have anything that you desire?
Welcome to the Cultivating You podcast with Anthony Duane.
What's good, beautiful people, beautiful humans? Welcome to Cultivating You's second episode, and today we are talking law of attraction. All right, law of attraction has actually been something that has been on my mind, and I've been practicing for about, maybe 5 weeks now or so, but I got to tell you, it has changed my life. It literally has changed my life. I've seen a lot of positive influences. I've seen some abundance flowing in. And I'm just really excited to share all of this with you so that maybe I can motivate you to maybe start practicing yourself. At the very least, maybe just start listening to a little bit of it and starting to create a little bit of change in your life for the positive, okay? So before we get into the law of attraction itself, I just wanted to get into a little bit of context about what the law of attraction is for those of you who may not necessarily be familiar with it, okay? The excerpt that you just heard in the beginning of the show, that is an excerpt from a conference by Abraham Hicks. Now, Abraham Hicks is actually a lady named Esther Hicks. And Esther and Jerry Hicks are the writers of The Law of Attraction, as well as, I believe, 8 other books that are very popular, but Law of Attraction being the most popular. And together they travel across the country, speaking and doing conferences and talking to large groups of people and actually having like a lot of one-on-one sessions with individuals. And basically, they try to get them to realign their thoughts and their emotions to their source energy that is within them, and get them to manifest their dreams and their desires and teach them how to, create the world that they want to live in, be the deliberate creators of their world. So Esther Hicks is a channeler. She doesn't necessarily call herself a channeler, but that's what she's doing. And she's channeling Abraham, which is a non-physical being from the source realm. And source being, the everything, the all. Some people call it God energy. It is the universe, and it's all within us, and it's all connected to everybody and everything. And it's in us, and we just have to find that and align with it, because when we're not aligned with it, we feel like crap. We are angry. We are frustrated. We're just not ourselves, our true selves. So that's what happens. And so if you hear me referring to Esther Hicks throughout this conversation as Abraham Hicks, it's basically the entity Abraham channeling through Esther. So, and as far as like the God and the source and all that stuff, if you don't believe in that thing, if that's a little bit too out there for you, I get it. I was skeptical at one time too. But even if you don't believe in any of that, you have to agree that our minds are a powerful thing. The way we think is basically the filter at how we look at the world, the way we see the world. So if we're pessimistic, if we're cynical, if we're angry, in a bad mood, that is filtering our perspective of life. So we're going to start seeing a lot more things that are going to piss us off and make us angrier, because we're going to be looking for that, if that makes sense. So basically the law of attraction, teaches you to stop focusing on what it is that you don't want and start focusing on the things that you do want. You know what I'm saying? So instead of focusing on being in traffic in the morning, driving to work, just focus on, hey, at least I'm going to my job and I'm going to make some money and it's going to be good. Maybe I'm late, but maybe I'm going to miss something bad that happens. It's all about just reframing your thoughts. And I was just using that as like a simple thing, but it's all about reframing your thoughts and starting to pivot your thoughts from negative to positive on a more consistent basis, so that you are slowly and on a daily basis, if you're happier minute by minute, and you can continually create your happiness by minute, those minutes are going to turn into hours, and then those hours are going to turn into days, and then those days are going to turn into weeks and months and years and so on. And overall, you're going to live a happier existence just by simply learning to switch that thought pattern into something positive, and choosing to feel happiness and joy. So that's like the big premise about law of attraction. And if you can start to do that with not only your happiness and your joy, but about money and abundance and just about anything else that you want, if you can continuously do that, you'll be aligning with your source energy, and you will be vibrating out into the world that those feelings, and in return you're going to attract the things that you want. So that's a basic breakdown of the law of attraction and Abraham Hicks. And how I found the law of attraction was, it was kind of interesting, and in a sense I guess you could say the law of attraction found me. Like, I attracted the law of attraction, right? It's something that that you kind of feel called to a little bit, especially when you keep repeatedly getting signals and signs to call you to something, right? So sometimes you just have to answer that call, right? And what had happened with me is I was getting into Hermetic philosophy, and just hearing about it here and there, and was wondering what's a good source for me to start learning about it on a deeper level. And I found the Kyballion, and the Kyballion is by the three initiates, and it's basically a breakdown of Hermetic philosophy, Hermetic wisdom. And the book kind of goes through these laws of nature, or the laws of the universe, basically. And I believe there are 7 of them. And it's a really great book. It's a really great breakdown of ancient wisdom, ancient teachings that people were coming up with before the Egyptians and the pyramids. Hermes Trismegistus is kind of like one of the OG spiritual thinkers and philosophers of that we know of, and he put all these ideas out. And a lot of people would argue that most of our major religions kind of stem from this philosophy. When you look at all the religions, they all kind of talk about the same thing. They all have their different prophets and people and idols and things like that, but there's this underlying sense of the same theme through all the religions, right? So I was reading that book, and one of the laws in that book actually stood out to me. And it's about polarization and polarity, and that everything has its polar opposite, right? So there's light and there's dark, and there is dull things can be made sharp, happiness and anger. You just have all these polarities, and they're throughout life. And it talks about how the true alchemists if you're interested in alchemy, but like the alchemists of the past were, all to be said, searching for this philosopher's stone, right? That could turn any metal into gold, right? And ultimately, we've found that that was more of a metaphor for just being able to transmute things. And it's almost kind of like a transformation, even of ourselves, into something better, something higher, right? So, and that's kind of like the idea of changing your polarity. If you're angry, you can change that polarity to being happy or being satisfied or being content. And yeah, so that passage, that chapter really stood out to me. And after I read that book, I said, I'm gonna start doing that. Because anger and frustration and a lot of those types of things have been one of the biggest things I've been trying to work on. I've always been a pretty happy person, but there's always like deep down frustrations, and sometimes you don't really show those things, and sometimes you don't. If you don't express them, they come out in nasty ways. Like you can explode and you can pop and you can, it's not good. You got to release these things somehow. But instead of, hiding the anger and the fear and tucking it away, I'd rather be able to, process it, transmute it, and turn it into something positive so that it's expressed through me, and I just get better, at expressing it, and potentially even just get rid of it, if I can, maybe not get rid of it, anger, there is healthy anger, but just use it in a better manner. But I didn't really necessarily know how to do that. And it's kind of odd because after reading the Kyballion, I started having a lot of these things called what I call synchronicities, right? So I would be thinking something and it would happen, or somebody else would bring the topic up, like immediately within the day or the next day. And it was happening a lot, 2 or 3 times a day. This was happening after I read this book, which it was like something turned on inside of me, right? It was like something happened, and I started seeing signals from the universe telling me things. And it was weird. I would even be talking to somebody, having a conversation with somebody, and I would bring something up, and they would say, "Are you reading my mind right now?" Like I was just thinking that, and that would happen kind of frequently. And ever since, like it's been over a month since I've read that book, and literally at least once a day now, like they're still happening. I'm getting these little synchronicities all the time, and it's really crazy. It's really cool. It's to me, it tells me that I'm on the right path, or it's the universe talking to me, right? It's these signs, these signals out there that I'm tuning into. So it's very cool. But one of the synchronicities that had been happening is that I had been listening to a podcast, and they recommended the law of attraction. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write that down. And then I wrote that down in my to-read list for my books that I wanted to get. And I believe somebody else, another person, had brought up law of attraction. And then I was talking to another friend of mine, and she was like, I really think you would like this book. Check it out. And she sends me a picture of the book, The Money and the Law of Attraction. And after that, I just couldn't help it. It was like the power of 3, right? It's like, it's happened 3 times in a very short span of time. That's my next book. As soon as I have an Audible credit, I'm going to download that book and I'm going to listen to it. And just so happens that day I had an Audible credit come in, and I downloaded the book and I started listening to it. I've listened to it about 4 or 5 times now, repeatedly, because I just keep getting good stuff from it. And that's how I kind of fell into, the law of attraction and starting using it, its principles and things like that. And it's been really awesome because you can really start your day. You can jumpstart your day with this powerful thinking that it induces in you, right? So in the morning, getting up, going for a workout, and if I'm working out like in my garage, in the gym in the garage, I bring a journal with me, and I turn on the law of attraction on my Bluetooth, and I start listening to it, and I'm writing, and I'm priming myself for that positivity, for that magic to happen throughout the day, so that the rest of my day is just kind of a breeze, right? So it tells you to do a few things, and I'm going to give you a few of those things right now to just to maybe you can start doing. But like I said, I encourage you to get the book Audible. I encourage you to listen to it. Actually, it's probably better to listen to it than to sit down and read it, because you can like hands free and do other things while you're listening to it, and like writing. And for me, it's like a double punch. It's like listening and writing as I'm doing it is really ingraining it, right? So one of the things it tells you to do is get a notebook, right? So if you have a notebook, if you're like me, you probably have 14 notebooks laying around your house, and just pick one of those up, and start writing in it, and start writing positive aspects of things in your life. So it pays to just start looking at aspects of your life in a positive manner, especially the things that are really bugging you. So if you have, if you're having issues with your car, you need a new car, or you're kind of broke, or you want more money, and or you have issues with people at work that are always kind of getting on the nerve, and these are like the things that you kind of dwell on negatively. Those are the things that you're going to start wanting to write down in your book of positive aspects every single day, and just do one a day, and just try and fill up a whole page of positive things about that situation, or about that person, or about your car, or about your bank account, or something like that. And you're going to start to shift the energy, right? You're going to start to change that polarity from a negative aspect to a positive aspect. And it starts with simple things. You can start with your house, and just write down positive aspects. My house. And you're like, my house it gives me shelter, right? I stay warm in my house. My house has 3 bedrooms. It has enough bedrooms for me and my children. It even has an extra bedroom for me to make into an office. It has a great big backyard. It has, even if it has a small backyard, it has enough space for me to grow a garden, or to go outside and enjoy the sun in my own space, right? It's my own space. Start listing off these positive aspects over and over about this thing. And then I encourage you to start picking aspects that you kind of are thinking negatively towards. So if it's that person at work, write that person's name down and start thinking about positive aspects of that person. And, slowly start to shift your idea towards them, because the more you start thinking about that person and the things that they're doing or not doing, or how it's affecting you, and blah, 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 and all this bad stuff, that's what you're going to start attracting. Or if you haven't already, you're already attracting more of it. You know what I'm saying? So don't focus on the things that you don't want. Focus on the things that you do want. Because the more you focus on the things you don't want, the more you're going to attract that to you. So, start focusing on that person being a good listener, or maybe they bring coffee sometimes, like focus on those things. And, over time, you're going to start to see that these things shift naturally just by your thinking about them. So along with the book of positive aspects, I've also been doing affirmations with it, positive affirmations, and alongside the aspects, I will also fill up a page of my affirmation, and that's going to be a positive affirmation that should be unique to you. You're going to, create your own positive affirmation and write that down. And as you're writing it, you want to feel the emotion of it, right? That's another big thing with this law of attractions. You want to feel the emotion. If you're let's say you're trying to buy a new car, right? the best thing you can do is to visualize yourself buying that car and feel the emotion of what it's like sitting in that new car after you just bought it, feeling the leather seats on your skin, the smell of the new car, you driving down the highway with the music on and the windows down. Feel the emotion that it's going to bring to you, and write those things down, and feel as if it's already happened, and you're going to bring up that emotion within you. And then once you do that, it's going to align you with the source within you that is already like, oh, that's what you want, that's done, it's already in process, right? It's already coming to you. So that thing is now on its way to you, and that attraction is there to you. So you can't sit there and dwell in like, oh my God, my car is such a piece of shit, the engine light keeps coming on, I just popped a tire that cost me an arm and a leg, the AC's going out, it's summer, whatever, you know what I'm saying? The more you do that, the more you're just going to keep perpetuating that energy, and you're going to attract more problems to your car. So, get positive with it, get really positive with it, and really try to change your state as much as possible. That's the biggest thing, is once you do start doing this, you're going to start noticing when you get negative. It's going to start becoming clear, and you're going to be like, oh, there's that negativity. You're going to catch it. You're going to tell yourself, I reject this negative energy, and then you're going to change it into something positive. And as soon as you start doing this, and as soon as you start doing this on a consistent basis, you're going to realize that you're going to be a lot more happy. And that's the biggest thing I've known. I'm just like focusing on being happy and joyful all the time. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I don't think it's realistic to constantly be happy, and sometimes you need the downs so that you know how the highs feel, right? But if it's on a more consistent basis, again, those days are going to turn into weeks and months and years, and you're going to look back and you're going to be like, yeah, I had a really, really great life. So if anything, it's going to, create a little bit of positivity in your life. So, so this has truly changed my life. What it got me to start doing is also doing something that I've now called futuring. And futuring is basically just writing about who I strive to become and want to become and plan on becoming, and who and things I want to achieve and I want to accomplish in my life, right? And I just started writing. So I started writing about my future in a positive aspect. And so when I did that, I noticed a few things. I noticed that the path that I was on wasn't necessarily aligning with the path that I saw myself go down in the future, if that makes any sense. And it almost kind of felt like the path that I was on was like a side quest, right? It was like not that I got derailed. Like the path that I currently am on now is a great path, and it's ultimately the path I'm on now is more of like an accomplished goal than it is, what I see as maybe my destiny, or, like what I was meant to do or what I was put here for. And so I had a very big shift, right? For those of you who know me and know that I've been in business for the past year and a half or so. I started my business called Mind Shrooms, and me and my partner, we sell mushroom grow kits online, and it's been an absolutely fantastic journey that I've been on. This business journey has actually been kind of spiritual. Like it's really shined a light on my weaknesses and my strengths, and ultimately it's kind of put me on this path of discipline and optimization in myself so that I can be more productive. I can get things done and be positive about the outcome of the future, because things are uncertain, especially in the last 2 years with COVID and the economy and inflation and all these things, and while also starting a business from the ground up with not a lot of money. Like we dropped what we could into it, and so businesses take money. They take a lot of money. And I'd been kind of feeling a lot of resistance towards my business. I'd had a lot of frustrations with it, but mainly resistance. I've been feeling a lot of resistance, and once I started doing these practices with the law of attraction, I started to realize that, again, maybe I'm on a side quest, and it started to illuminate the path that I knew I was supposed to be on. And it's kind of crazy, because in life, it's like there's many ways to get to where you're going, right? You could be walking down this, kind of like walking down this path. It's this nice, really wooded path, right? And you see the mountaintop up ahead of you in the distance, and you're like, all right, let's go. And there's a few obstacles along the way. And sometimes there's these side quests, there's these side routes that catch your attention, right? There's this like nice apple tree right there on the side of the road, and you walk up to that road, the side of that road, and you pick an apple off the tree, and you see another path kind of shooting off to the side there, and it looks beautiful. There's a creek running along the side of it, and it looks like there's some water down there, maybe a waterfall. And you're like, man, that looks really nice. That looks awesome. I think I'm going to check it out. And, you start going down that. And as you're going, it's a really beautiful path. And then all of a sudden, the trees get to be a little bit more sparse, and the creek kind of starts drying up a little bit as you get deeper. And then next thing you know, you're kind of in this like maybe a little more barren landscape. And you're like, oh, wow, I don't see any water anywhere around here, And it gets kind of hard. It gets kind of tough. And, if you're not careful, you'll spend a few more days kind of pushing along and trudging along. And maybe you're going to start to get dehydrated, and you're like really looking for this water now. And you still see that mountain in the distance, but it's kind of like way off to that side. And you're like, whoa, what is going on here? And then you kind of look back, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go all the way back there. Like maybe I should just keep pushing. And that's kind of where it gets scary. A lot of people could give up. A lot of people can, just say, forget it. But maybe the best thing sometimes is just to reroute and try and get back on that original path. And I feel like that's kind of what I've been doing, or at least contemplating since, practicing the law of attraction. And it's kind of what happened to me. And essentially what I did was I realized that instead of keep butting up and headbutting with this instead of like going against the current, going against the flow, trying to swim upstream, you know what I'm saying? I felt like maybe I should just kind of let myself go downstream and kind of go with the flow a little bit, and not fight against this restriction, that I've been kind of feeling. And when I did think about that, I made a very conscious decision. It was a very good decision for me because it felt right internally. It felt good, and so I ended up stepping away from my business, and I approached my business partner, and I just kind of let him know what was going on with me internally, and that I felt it in my heart and my soul that I needed to do this. Like it really sparked it in me, and I had to do it, and I had to step away. And he was, was probably pretty shocked. It was kind of abrupt. We were doing really good. We were starting to, we had made a lot of changes in the business, and we cut a lot of costs, and we were getting back to the revenue that we had that we had hoped for. So things were going really good, and I was actually getting to a point where I was catching a lot of momentum with my work. I was really optimized in my processes for my production, and as far as like my marketing, and I was starting to gain momentum, reaching out to other people, and marketing with other companies and things like that. And so it was very odd for me to, like, it wasn't like I was failing and I was scared to keep going or anything. It was more like I'm actually in a really good place, but this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And I just had to follow that internal guide, that internal source within me. And so, yeah, I jumped back on a path that I feel is right for me. And although that is a scary situation in itself, it feels good. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel joy, because I feel like I'm kind of going towards my true destiny, I guess. So yeah, I mean, if that's not life changing, I don't know what is. Spending a year and a half, and it wasn't for nothing. I learned so much from this business, that I'm going to be moving forward with a great deal of knowledge. And I'm really happy about the choices that I'm making. So yeah, just sometimes you just got to learn to not keep fighting that resistance, and make the scary choice to, do the thing you're actually excited and scared to do. You gotta make that scary choice, but it will pay off. And as long as you trust in yourself, and that was a big thing for me, is like, I always felt like I've been dependent on another person, right? I've always been dependent on other people for, doing things, whether it's like, partnering up with this business, or, I've been on other podcasts with other people, and it was like, for me, it was like, I want to gain my own independence. And, this podcast also came out of the law of attraction, because it's like, man, I got these ideas. It's like, this makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to think about creating and maybe inspiring other people to do something. So I want to just jump in and do it. And it's going to be hard, but it's probably going to be fun. I'm just going to, so yeah, all of this stuff has actually been kind of generated by the law of attraction. I'm really thankful for it. And, it's really awesome, because when I look at the business, it was actually jumping in has brought me to where I am today. It actually led me to a lot of different things, but I think it generated in me that self-reliance. And I got to this pinnacle, this point of where it was like something clicked, and it was like, okay, we got what we came here for. We're now we need to move forward again. Now we need to challenge ourselves again a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to the future. So, yeah, big things coming for sure. One thing I do also recommend, if you do choose to dabble in the law of attraction, is to pair it with a few other sources that I have for you. And one other thing is actually right here. Start off with getting yourself a diary or a journal of some kind. This is called the 6-minute diary. And it's literally what it says. It's a 6-minute diary that you do every day. And it starts off with the morning, and you can actually write down things you're grateful for, how you're going to make today great, a positive affirmation, has some cool little quotes. And then in the evenings, you can finish out the rest of it. What was a good deed that you did for the day, how you'll improve, and great things you experienced today. And these are things like gratitude is going to be huge for you, to change your and shift your energy, right? And that thing's been great. If you wake up and just do that thing immediately, it's going to have great effects and positive effects for your day. I started actually doing that with my kids. It's been hard to kind of do it consistently, But I started doing that with my kids and my wife, and we've been journaling all together, and it's been really cool seeing like the positive impacts that it's had on them. Like my kids were coming up with goals like, I want to score 10 points in my basketball game. And, up until, a few games ago, he'd only been able to get like 7 points or 8 points or something like that. And so after he started doing that, he kind of just put it out in the universe, like, I'm going to score 10 points. And he had a game not too long after that where he didn't hit 10 points, but he hit 9 points. And unfortunately, the coach took him out with like a whole quarter to play because they were just kind of annihilating this other team. But he knew he would have probably scored 15 if he had stayed in. So he was pretty stoked about that because, he was kind of stuck in this rut of like 6-7 points, and then bumped it up and almost hit his goal just simply like after talking about it, So it was cool to see with them. Also, this is the Kyballion. This is the book that I was talking about that I initially was reading. And this is a great book to pair with the law of attraction because they're essentially, Abraham Hicks talks about source and the all and God. And this is kind of like, this book will tell you what source is. You know what I'm saying? This is a great tool to go along with that. And then as far as like channeling, it was weird because I had bought this book. It's called The Book of Mastery by Paul Selig, and it's a channeled text, right? And I had never heard of channeling before, I got into Abraham Hicks, and then I started thinking, and I was like, I have heard of channeled text before. I have a book by Paul Selig that I bought a long time ago, and I wasn't even really into it. And I started reading. I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I didn't really get into the book. That was probably 8 years ago I bought that. And then after the law of attraction, and probably like 5 days ago, I looked in my bookshelf and there was this book, and I was like, oh my God, it's the same thing. Like, they're talking about the same thing. So I started reading that again, and it speaks about the same wisdom, but these are all good things to listen to and read and do while you're actually doing the law of attraction. And when I don't want you to just get the law of attraction book and listen to it once over and then be like, oh, that was a cool book, cool ideas, and then just kind of go off and do the next thing, right? I want you to read it over and over again, and I want you to really ingrain it in your daily life to the point where you've been practicing it so much it becomes just a daily habit, and then it just follows with you for the rest of your life, and same with these other things. It's always good to read multiple sources on one subject, or multiple sources that pertain to one subject, so you get different points of view and kind of put all these things that kind of intersect each other and come together to give you a greater grasp on it, right? Another thing that I highly recommend listening to is a man that was actually recommended to me by one of my friends. His name is Stuart Wilde, and he is a Taoist. So if you've ever heard of the Tao Te Ching, that's also a great book, but he kind of extrapolates on the Tao and has his own 33 rules to find your infinite self. So on YouTube, you can find him, Stuart Wilde, and his video is called The Infinite Self. And I'm actually going to be posting that link in the description along with all these other books so that you can kind of find them. The 6-Minute Diary you can find on Amazon. It's like $25, but it's definitely worth it. You can find all that stuff in the description. I really, really, really hope that you check it out. At least starting to make a little bit of change in your life, start changing your thinking into these positive aspects and creating the life that you want and doing the things that you want to do and do it deliberately. You know what I'm saying? Don't get into the idea or get out of that way of thinking or way of being that life is happening to you and that you are a victim of your circumstances, right? We're not victims of our circumstances. Life is not happening to us. We are creating life. We need to change from, suffering to creating. You know what I'm saying? We need to get out ahead of it. We need to be on the active side of it in creating the lives that we want, because if we don't, we're just going to get what we're going to get. And nobody wants that. People want to know that they have the will and the strength to go out and reach their full potentials and do all the things that they want to do, and live a life that they're proud of and that their kids and their families are proud of. And that life is then an inspiration for others. So I'm glad you tuned in today. I hope this helps out. I hope to hear from you guys. If you guys have started practicing the law of attraction, give me some feedback. You can always reach me at cultivatingyoupodcast@gmail.com. You can reach me on Instagram, prolific_pappy, or the Cultivating You Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff. I really appreciate you listening in. And remember, go get that shit, right? Go create your lives deliberately. And I'll see you next time. Peace.